When I discovered I was the villainous male supporting character in a book, I had already been married to the female lead for 2 years. According to the book, in another 6 months, I would have to step down and make way for the protagonist. This 6 months would be a period where I constantly messed up and inadvertently pushed the male and female leads closer together. In the morning, as usual, I prepared my beloved wife her favorite sandwich and hand-ground coffee. Then I handed her the bag, the keys, and saw her off. Standing at the door, watching the car disappear into the distance, a sudden flash of inspiration hit me, and everything I had forgotten came rushing back. In that moment, it was as if I had an epiphany, a sudden realization. Here's how it all began. 25 years ago, I was reincarnated into the world of this book with memories of my previous life. At first, I didn't know I was in a book until one day a man, beaming, said, "Baby, you have a name now. You're Richard Sincere, named after your father, Richard Sincere Sr." The man in front of me was Richard Sincere Sr., also known as my dad. Although the name Sincere sounded familiar, I didn't give it much thought since it was such an ordinary name. Until 3 years later, when Uncle John from next door had a baby girl. That little girl was adorable and captivating. My dad then said, "Look at this little bird. She would make a perfect match with our Richard. John, how about we arrange a marriage for our kids?" Uncle John's response was lost on me as my mind fixated on the name Little Bird. Victoria John, Victoria, a name so familiar it suddenly clicked. This was the character I had just read about before my reincarnation. It was from a nauseatingly sweet romance novel, where the dominant female lead, Victoria, was an aloof and unapproachable CEO. The sweet and cheerful male lead, Ethan Turner, was an intern who faced numerous challenges and setbacks in his career. Despite everything, Ethan remained passionate and resilient, which caught the CEO's attention. She not only didn't blame him for his mistakes, but also helped him out. Gradually, she fell deeply in love with him, leading to a romantic storyline. For a love story to be compelling, it needed a few antagonistic characters. Richard Sincere was that antagonist. He had grown up with Victoria and their families had arranged their marriage. He loved Victoria deeply, but she only saw him as a brother. Richard's jealousy and attempts to sabotage Ethan only made Victoria's feelings for Ethan clearer, eventually leading to Richard's downfall. When I realized I was in the book, I vowed to avoid Victoria and all the drama. For 3 years, I managed to stay away from her, treating her like a stranger. But fate had other plans. At 6 years old, I forgot everything about my previous life and fell for Victoria's beauty. For the next 22 years, I became her devoted admirer, pampering and protecting her, leading to our inevitable marriage. But standing outside our villa, I pinched my thigh hard, tears streaming down. Damn, beauty misled me. Walking back inside, I saw the untouched sandwich and steaming coffee on the table. Victoria hadn't eaten my breakfast for 4 days, claiming she wasn't hungry. With my memories returning, I realized it wasn't because she wasn't hungry. She was saving her appetite for the breakfast Ethan brought her at work. "Victoria, please try this." I took a deep breath, feeling like an absolute idiot. What was I supposed to do? Sitting at the dining table, eating the sandwich I made for myself, everything tasted like sawdust. Being an obsessive admirer wasn't scary. What was scary was being an obsessive admirer in a female-dominated romance novel. If I had remembered I was in a book, I would never have gotten involved with Victoria. Knowing she would eventually fall for someone else and still getting entangled, wasn't that just asking for trouble? If I had realized this just now, I would have immediately filed for divorce and cut ties with Victoria and all the drama. But 22 years, I've admired Victoria for 22 years. Even if you polish a shoe for 22 years, you develop feelings for it. Now you're telling me she doesn't love me and has another true love? What do you want me to do, kill myself? At that moment, the housekeeper, Mary, walked in. Seeing me, she asked, "Sir, what would you like for lunch?" "I'll go buy the ingredients." Suddenly, an idea struck me. I stood up abruptly. "Mary, Make something Victoria likes. I'll go to her office for lunch. All right. You prepare first. I'll go out and buy the ingredients. Okay. I drove away from the villa, heading straight to the hospital. Victoria's period was a week late this month. I hadn't paid much attention since her cycle was always irregular. But with my memories returning, I recalled something from the original story. Victoria had a child, but Richard didn't know. Once, Richard went to her office and found her adjusting Ethan's tie. They hadn't done anything, but Richard went crazy, raising his hand to hit Ethan. Victoria, protecting Ethan, got pushed and lost the child. Richard was devastated, feeling he had hurt Victoria, almost driven to suicide. He didn't know Victoria never intended to keep the child. Driving to the hospital, I remembered my 2-year marriage with Victoria. We always took precautions about having children, mutually agreeing not to rush it. I didn't know Victoria's thoughts, but I just wanted a few more years of us together. Arriving at the hospital, I numbly walked to the obstetrics and gynecology department. Unsurprisingly, I saw Victoria. I watched her waiting for her number, seeing the doctor, paying, getting tested, and waiting for results. The whole process took 2 hours. My mind was blank, unable to think or process anything. I watched her come out of the consultation room, holding a lab report. After a long silence, she tore the paper into pieces and threw it into the trash. She walked away. The cigarette between my fingers fell to the ground. It wasn't until I reached the hospital entrance that I snapped out of my daze. Taking a deep breath, I drove back. 22 years of feelings, 2 years of marriage, and a child on the way. I didn't want a book's plot to dictate my life. Victoria, don't disappoint me. Back home, Mary had already prepared the meal, packing it up with a smile. Sir, it's rare to see such loving couples like you and the lady. Makes me envious. Usually I would smile happily, but now I couldn't even manage a smile. The villa was a half-hour drive from Victoria's company. Arriving at her office building at noon, the receptionist recognized me. No need to notify anyone, I went straight to the private elevator, reaching the 32nd floor without interruption. The first to see me was Victoria's assistant. He looked shocked, then quickly regained composure. Sir, what brings you here? I smirked. Where's Victoria? In the office. I'll notify her. I grabbed his arm. No need, I'll go myself. I didn't come to Victoria's company often, but I knew the way. Reaching the CEO's office, I arrogantly pushed the door open. The office was well lit. At noon, the sunlight streamed through the clean glass, filling the room with light and warmth. Against the light, I saw a man and a woman sitting at the desk. In front of them were cute cat-themed lunchboxes. They sat close, enjoying their meal, the boy talking and smiling. The woman looked up, listening intently. Maybe it was the sunlight, but she seemed exceptionally gentle. A gentleness I had never seen before. Afraid I was seeing things, I quickly took out my phone and snapped a photo. Click. I cursed under my breath, forgetting to turn off the sound, interrupting the scene. Damn it. Both of them looked surprised, their expressions stunned for a few seconds. Seeing that look on Victoria's face amused me, and I couldn't help but laugh. Victoria frowned at me, looking displeased. Ethan, pale, stood up quickly, spilling soup on his leg and yelping in pain. Victoria quickly got up, pulling him back. I turned and left. Save it, buddy. We're all respectable people. I won't do anything disgraceful like in the original story. The assistant standing nervously behind me, I handed him the lunchbox. You eat this. The assistant looked frightened. I didn't leave. Instead, I went to the secretary's office. Seeing me enter, several secretaries stood up. It seemed they all recognized me, which saved me from having to explain myself. Who is John? I asked. A man nervously stood up. Sir, that's me. What can I do for you? I almost wanted to kneel before him. Reading about him in the book didn't feel like much, but seeing him in person, I was genuinely impressed. This guy was meticulously groomed, down to the last hair. I steadied myself, took out my business card and handed it to him. I'm interested in what you have. Make sure to contact me." John looked bewildered. As I walked out of the secretary's office, Victoria was already standing outside. I composed myself, showing no emotion as I brushed past her. But she didn't let me go, grabbing my hand. "What are you doing here?" she asked. "Let go of me," I said. Maybe I had never spoken to her in this tone before, or maybe no man in this novel had ever spoken to her like this. Victoria's hand trembled. "Sincere, don't make a scene," I scoffed. "Victoria, let go. What are you, a pancake? Why would a grown man make a scene?" Victoria's face darkened, her eyes blazing with anger. I glared at her. I, Sincere, was not a good-tempered person. The only reason I was gentle with her was because I loved her, and because of the character setting in this novel. Now I realized it was unnecessary. I pried her hand off and left the company without looking back. After leaving the company, I didn't go home. Instead, I checked into a hotel. John didn't disappoint me. Within an hour and a half, he contacted me. In the original story, John was a minor character. He was very confident in his appearance, which made him somewhat arrogant. When Ethan gained Victoria's favor, John was extremely jealous. John was the first to notice the chemistry between Ethan and Victoria. Out of various complex emotions, he took photos of all their ambiguous moments together. These photos later ended up in Sincere's hands, becoming the catalyst for his dark transformation. I wasn't interested in turning dark, but I loved the dirt. I paid a sum of money to buy all the juicy gossip from John. He was very thorough, providing not only photos but also videos. I stared at these for nearly 2 hours until my eyes were sore and my stomach growled. I rubbed my temples. Despite having no appetite, I couldn't neglect myself. Just as I hung up the hotel phone, my phone rang. It was Victoria. 7:27 p.m., her usual time to get home. I didn't answer, just hung up. She didn't call again. Typical of a strong female lead. After hanging up on Victoria, I called Paul, the lawyer. "Mr. Sincere, what can I do for you?" "Draft a divorce agreement for me. I need it by tomorrow." There was a long silence on the other end. I thought the call had dropped. "Hello, Paul?" Paul finally responded. You said what? Whose divorce agreement?" I laughed. "Who else would I ask you to draft a divorce agreement for? Mine and Victoria's." Paul quickly regained his composure. "All right, I understand. How do you want to divide the assets?" "My assets remain mine, hers remain hers. I don't want any shared assets. I'm not going to haggle over a few dollars. If it gets tangled up, I can't stand the back and forth." Paul hesitantly asked, "So you're leaving with nothing?" I didn't like the term leaving with nothing. "No, she can keep the shared assets. Advise her not to be stingy." "Understood. I'll draft it right away and send it to you." Paul was very efficient. He finished within half an hour and sent it to me. I was amazed at the speed. I hadn't even finished my meal. Decided, I'll give Paul a big bonus at the end of the year. After finishing my meal, I went downstairs to print the divorce agreement and develop the photos. Just as I opened the door, a figure appeared, startling me. It was Victoria, her brows furrowed, face dark. I wasn't surprised by her arrival. She was a very rule-abiding person. As long as I was still her husband, she wouldn't let me go. Since I didn't answer her calls, she would definitely come to find me. "Why didn't you come home?" she asked in a low voice. "Perfect timing. Come in and sit. I have something to tell you." I was about to leave. "Where are you going?" she asked. "To print something. I'll go with you." I pushed her away, looking at her firmly. "No need. Wait here." When I returned with the printed documents, Victoria was sitting properly on the sofa. She was always so meticulous, like a robot without emotions. But this afternoon, looking at those photos, I realized she wasn't. I held the divorce agreement in my hand but didn't take it out. Instead, I asked her, "A friend said they saw you at the hospital today. Are you feeling unwell?" I wanted to see if Victoria would tell me she was pregnant, but she hastily looked up, then down again. They were mistaken. I didn't go to the hospital. I cursed the past version of myself who still had illusions about her. Keep licking, keep licking. You licked so much that the female lead felt free to mess around, licked until you lost everything. I'll just accompany you to the end. Feeling calmer, I said, all right, the divorce agreement is in duplicate. I took out a pen, signed it, and handed it to Victoria. Victoria took it, looking puzzled. Her expression changed dramatically as she read the words. She looked up at me in disbelief. Divorce? You want to divorce me? I nodded. Yes, what else? Victoria stared at me with a heavy gaze. I calmly met her eyes. After a moment, she threw the document on the table. Reason? I took out the developed photos and tossed them in front of her. The top one was a picture of her and Ethan standing on the rooftop, looking into the distance. The angle was perfect, capturing them gazing into each other's eyes and smiling. Victoria flipped through the photos one by one, her expression calm and unruffled. Even her hand holding the photos didn't tremble. You were spying on me? After looking through the photos, Victoria looked up, her eyes filled with impatience and hidden anger. Her reaction made me laugh. So, after seeing all this, the only thing you can think of is to hold me accountable? Victoria, something else. You've successfully shown me your skill in evading the issue. But let me clarify, I wasn't stalking you. Someone else took these photos and I bought them. Any problem with that? Want to sue me for invasion of privacy? If so, go ahead. Victoria frowned deeply. That's not what I meant. Ethan and I are just colleagues. There's nothing between us. If it's because of him, there's no need. I sneered. You can stop right there. I'm not some cuckold waiting for more embarrassing photos to be sent my way. Sorry, I don't have that kink. Victoria's eyes turned cold as she stood up and approached me. Sincere, what are you playing at? I've told you there's nothing between us. What more do you want? I frowned, stepping back a few steps. Do you not understand plain English? I said I want a divorce. Divorce, do you get it? I find talking to you exhausting. Victoria, irritated, raised her voice. Sincere, stop this nonsense. Pack your things and come home with me. I can pretend none of this happened. I was getting angry too. Damn it, divorce. I said I want a divorce right now, immediately. And you're still trying to be magnanimous? Are you crazy? Shut up. Victoria raised her voice. Sincere, I don't want to hear that word again. You're not a child. Take responsibility for what you say. Her words successfully angered me. I had to ask her who the real child was. I rushed over and pulled out one of the photos. In it, Victoria and Ethan were laughing and chatting in the office, eating the breakfast Ethan bought for her, with a cup of soy milk in her hand. The date on the photo was yesterday. Didn't you say you had no appetite in the morning? Didn't you say employees should follow company rules? Do you know right from wrong? Do you take responsibility for your words? Talking to me about responsibility? Victoria, do you even qualify? This was probably the first time someone had scolded her like this. She looked at me as if she wanted to eat me alive, but I didn't care. Feeling completely relieved, Victoria looked at me deeply. Are you sure you want a divorce? I handed her the divorce agreement and a pen, showing my determination through my actions. Victoria's expression changed several times before she finally signed the agreement with such force that she almost tore the paper. She didn't even glance at the contents. I raised an eyebrow, suddenly feeling a bit regretful. If I had known, I would have taken a chunk of her money. After all, who would complain about having more money? Victoria, with a dark face and full of anger, got up and left. Watching her back, I reminded her, bring your ID and household registration. I'll meet you at the Civil Affairs office tomorrow morning. She paused for a moment, then left without looking back. The next morning, I woke up at dawn. Looking at the time, it was 6 a.m. This time made me furious. Years of habit, no need for an alarm. I woke up naturally. This instinct reminded me once again How pathetic it was to be an obsessive admirer in a female-dominated romance novel. Victoria, you're something else. Suppressing my frustration, I buried my head in the pillow, trying to sleep. But no matter what, I couldn't fall asleep. Frustrated, I tossed and turned in bed for over an hour before reluctantly getting up. After breakfast and packing my things, I went to the Civil Affairs office. I waited for Victoria at the Civil Affairs office for 2 hours. She still didn't show up and my mood worsened. Victoria, you're really something. Driving straight to Victoria's company, her assistant looked terrified when he saw me. Sir, the CEO is in a meeting. Would you like to wait in the office? My face must have looked terrible. Without troubling him, I went straight to Victoria's office. Just as I sat down, there was a knock on the door, and Ethan walked in. He was indeed good-looking, with sharp features and a sunny disposition, exuding a clean aura. Sir, here's your coffee. I raised an eyebrow. You deliver coffee? Are you a secretary? Ethan frowned. I'm just helping someone out. I mocked. You have a lot of free time. Sincere, there's no need to be so aggressive. I'm just being helpful. Helpful, huh? An intern from the programming department running to the secretary's office to help. Are you neglecting your duties or is she slacking off? Ethan firmly placed the coffee down. I know you have issues with me, but I interrupted. This is our second meeting. Why would I have issues with you? Who do you think you are? Ethan stubbornly said. I know you mind my interactions with Victoria, but we're just friends. As her husband, you shouldn't deprive her of the right to make friends. I nodded. Friends who bring her breakfast, make her lunch, eat with her, and freely enter her office. What next? A friend to sleep with her. Ethan, we're both men. We know what your actions mean. Right, Victoria? Ethan quickly turned around, and seeing Victoria, he immediately put on a facade of extreme restraint and forced strength. Chapter 5. Victoria, I called out. Her face looked grim, and Ethan gazed at her with concern, but she didn't even spare him a glance. Instead, she walked straight to me and grabbed my hand. What's going on? She asked. Only then did I notice the stinging pain in my hand. Looking down, I saw a red mark where the coffee had splashed. Seeing how much Victoria seemed to care, I felt a bit disinterested. I shook her hand off. Let go. Victoria's face darkened. What happened? Ethan, looking humiliated, said, It's my fault. I accidentally spilled the coffee. Victoria finally looked at Ethan. All right, you can go now. Ethan glanced at Victoria, then stubbornly turned and left. It disgusted me. Assistant, go get some burn ointment. Yes, Miss Victoria. I'll go right away. I sneered. What kind of show are you putting on here? Victoria glared at me. Sincere, what do you want? Making a scene in public? I looked at her with a twisted expression. Stop using that word. I'm not making a scene. I'm telling you, if you don't divorce me, I'll still be your husband. I'll find ways to make your life difficult at the company. I waited for you at the Civil Affairs office for 2 hours. Where were you? No show, no call. Only your time matters? Who else isn't worth millions per minute? Victoria's face grew darker. The Civil Affairs office? Why did you go there? I looked at her in disbelief. Why did I go there? Do you not understand plain English? For a vacation? Of course. For a divorce. Did you lose your memory? Victoria looked at me, her breathing becoming rapid. Suddenly, she lost control and started to fall back. I quickly reached out to support her. Victoria shook her head, looking very uncomfortable. What's wrong? I asked. She pushed me away, uncontrollably retching. It was morning sickness. I clenched my teeth and asked again, I'll ask you one more time. What's wrong? Victoria looked up at me, her face pale, eyes cold. You want a divorce? Fine. Let's divorce. I smiled. That's the answer I wanted. Victoria's lips trembled. But we need to talk. Victoria and I had been in each other's lives for 25 years, never missing a moment. But because of our 3-year age difference, it always felt like I was waiting for her. When she was 3, I was 6. When she started kindergarten, I went to elementary school. When she was 6, I was 9. Just as she started elementary school, my classroom moved to another campus. When she was 10, I was 13. She had just moved to the new campus for a year when I went to middle school. When she started middle school, I went to high school. When she started high school, I went to college. By the time she finally got into my college, I had already started working. So, 3 years was a real hurdle. But even so, I stayed with her throughout her 4 years of college. In college, I confessed to her, and she accepted. We moved in together in an apartment I rented off campus. I was already very busy, and the apartment was far from my company. But even so, I always went back to our little home where Victoria waited for me. No matter what, I always went back. I loved her, and I thought she loved me too. Sitting in a quiet, private room, Victoria carefully looked at the menu. My gaze wandered, not falling on her. She asked, "What do you want to eat?" "You're paying?" I asked. Victoria gave me a strange look and nodded. I ordered a full table of dishes. Victoria looked bewildered, just about to hand the menu back to the waiter when I said, "Keep it. I'll order more if it's not enough." Victoria nodded to the waiter, signaling him to leave. As soon as the waiter left, she suddenly moved to sit beside me, catching me off guard. She grabbed my hand. I was startled. "What are you doing? I'm eating, you know." "Don't move," Victoria said, looking at my hand. "Don't move. I'll apply the ointment." Her voice was a bit hoarse, sounding almost pitiful. She took out a tube of ointment from her pocket. "I'll do it myself," I said, reaching for the ointment. But she dodged. "I'll do it. No need. I'll do it myself." "Sincere," Victoria said, annoyed. My hand paused in midair. "Fine. We've seen each other naked. Let her do it." I turned my head away, not wanting to look. Soon, a cool sensation spread over my hand, along with the softness of Victoria's fingertips. "Sincere, do you really want a divorce?" Victoria had already returned to her seat across from me. I nodded. "Yes, because of those photos." "Yes." Victoria took a deep breath, looking agitated, suppressing her emotions. "Ethan and I have never done anything inappropriate. Not before, not now, not in the future. What exactly are you upset about? It's just a normal superior-subordinate relationship. You work too, don't you understand?" It was really hard for Victoria to repeat such meaningless words over and over. But my memories as an obsessive admirer were filled with too many sad recollections. I said, "Victoria," looking up at her, "why don't you sit next to me? You always sit across from me." Victoria frowned, looking puzzled, as if she didn't understand what I meant. Or maybe she had never considered this question. I said, "From the age of 3 until now, 22 years. Let's say 300 days a year, that's 6,600 days. Rounding down, 6,000 days. 1 meal a day, we've had at least 6,000 meals together. In those 6,000 meals, you've never sat next to me, always across from me, just like now. Even if you sit next to me to apply ointment, you still end up sitting across from me. Look at the distance between us, at least a meter. Hashtag chapter 6. But you can sit with him. How close were you then? 5 centimeters? Maybe less?" Victoria froze for a moment, then stood up awkwardly. "That was just an accident. There's only that one table in the office where we can eat. It wasn't intentional." I didn't let her finish. I raised my hand to stop her. "Listen to me. Do you know how much effort I put into making you breakfast every morning? I get up at 6 every day to make all kinds of breakfast for you, rain or shine, with no complaints. Do you know how much easier it would be for me to sleep in?" The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. Remembering how I couldn't sleep this morning only added to my frustration. And what do? You throw away my breakfast and eat outside? Am I feeding the trash can? "Victoria, you owe me compensation for emotional distress." Victoria's expression was terrible. She opened her mouth but finally fixed her gaze on me. It won't happen again. Never again. I looked at her like she was an idiot. There is no next time, Victoria. Don't you understand? I've said it countless times. I want a divorce. We never should have gotten married. Thinking about it makes me want to hit you. Look. I showed her the photos of her and Ethan in the office, laughing and cheerful. I continued, when we got married, taking our wedding photos, you had a sour face from beginning to end. I overheard the staff talking. They said, this woman must be forced into marriage. Look at her, not a single smile, looking so unhappy. I wasn't unhappy, I was just nervous. There was something in Victoria's eyes I had never seen before, panic. I shook my head. Impossible. When had Victoria ever panicked? I rubbed my temples. Victoria walked over, crouching beside me, tightly holding my hand. She looked at me seriously and said, I'll transfer Ethan to a branch office. We won't see each other again. Maybe I did overstep the boundaries with him, but I promise, I only admire his attitude towards life and work. Nothing more. You've fallen for him, I said. Victoria frowned. I haven't. Her tone was firm, without a trace of hesitation. I shook my head. You have. Victoria's expression grew increasingly agitated. I know my own heart. I said I haven't, so I haven't. I pulled my hand away. Victoria's face turned cold, staring at me blankly. Victoria, I know you too well. All these years, countless men have circled around you, trying to get close to you, but you never gave them a second glance. But this time, it's different. You've broken your own rules for him. He's your first in 25 years. In other words, this is what we call true love. I'm a businessman. If an investment is about to cause me significant losses, I'll cut my losses to minimize the damage. Victoria, you've fallen for someone else, so I don't want you anymore. Victoria refused my request for a divorce, which was expected. After all, Victoria wasn't someone who acted on impulse or emotion. Just like in the book, even at the end, she wasn't divorced, just widowed. Thinking about it, I couldn't help but shiver. Victoria wouldn't want to kill me, right? I shook my head. Probably not. I understood most of the plot directions in the book, except for one thing, Victoria taking down the Sincere family. That wasn't something she would do. If the Sincere family were destined to fall, Victoria might have just given a helping hand. The deeper reason must be within the Sincere company itself. It seemed I needed to thoroughly review the company. After talking things through with Victoria, she looked a bit lost and only said, I won't divorce you. We'll be fine together. I felt I had made myself clear. I had no desire to say more. After all, I wasn't her emotional counselor, responsible for making her understand her feelings. I stood up to leave. She grabbed me. Where are you going? Home. She didn't let go. Which home? Garden View. Hearing this, she seemed to relax slightly. Wait for me at home. I'll handle everything. I shrugged, indifferent. Garden View was where we lived after getting married. She thought I was compromising by going back home. But I didn't tell her I was just going to pack my things. When I returned to Garden View with a team of professional organizers, Mary was shocked. The scene looked like a house raid. Mary looked confused. Sir, what are you doing? Moving out. We came in a grand manner and left in a grand manner. Mary tried several times to approach me but was deterred by my calm demeanor. She was employed by Victoria, paid by Victoria. After I left, we would have no further interaction, so there was no need for pleasantries. After leaving Garden View, I didn't go home. Instead, I went to another property under my name. Mr. Richard Sr. and Miss Grace were still on their trip. No need to worry them. Besides, my decision to divorce was firm, and I didn't want to hear anyone's advice. After leaving, I blocked all of Victoria's contact methods and went straight to the company. For the next week, I practically lived in the company, checking all the contracts and accounts. Sure enough, I found a problem. The company's financial director had set up a shell company behind my back, engaging in tax evasion. If he had pocketed all the money, it would have been fine, but he transferred a small portion to my father's account under the guise of dividends. How bold, violating the law and trying to use my father as a scapegoat. Who gave him the courage? Oh, it was my father. This financial director was a company veteran, my father's best buddy, who had been with him through thick and thin for years and had always looked after me. It was unexpected. The wolf that bites your neck is often beside you. But it's understandable. If Victoria can change, why can't others? Chapter 7. Having identified the root of the problem, I handed the matter over to Paul, the lawyer. How should we handle this? As a law-abiding citizen, of course, we would proceed according to the law. During my busy week, many people sought me out. The most notable were Victoria, Ethan, and John. I didn't see Victoria. She tried to force her way in, but I called the police. I didn't see Ethan either. Do I have time to chat with the third wheel? As for John, he was quite a character, a person with a remarkable potential to be a villainous minor character. For some reason, he saw me as his superior and began sharing every detail about Ethan and Victoria with me. Mr. Sincere, today Miss Victoria wanted to transfer Ethan out of the main office. He ran to her office and said if she did that, he would resign. Miss Victoria told him to make sure to complete his work handover. Mr. Sincere, Ethan has been transferred to a branch office. After all that fuss, he didn't leave. Who would want to leave such a good job? Mr. Sincere, Ethan brought breakfast for Miss Victoria again today. She didn't take it. Ethan said, "Whether you want it or not is your business, but I must fulfill my promise." But Miss Victoria still didn't eat it and threw it in the trash. I must say, well done. His stuff belongs in the trash. Curious about what promise Ethan had made, I found out that he had called Victoria when he had appendicitis, and she took him to the hospital. To repay her kindness, he promised to bring her breakfast every day. I took out my phone. The latest message from John read, "Ethan went to the rooftop to accidentally meet Miss Victoria again. That place is supposed to be her private area. None of us dare to go up there, but he treats it like his personal garden." I was speechless. "Aren't you afraid of getting your pay docked for being so idle?" John was excited. "Mr. Sincere, you finally responded. Don't worry, I have all of Miss Victoria's activities under control. Do you want photos? I'll send them to you." "Thank you, but no need. Victoria and I are getting a divorce. You don't need to send me anything about her and Ethan anymore." John, anxious, said, "Mr. Sincere, don't. I love gossip. Give me a chance. Aren't you curious about what other antics they might get up to? Who knows what Miss Victoria sees in that guy? There will definitely be more drama. Look forward to it." I laughed. "If you can't make it there, come work for me. I'll pay you double." John was even more excited and replied instantly, "I've wandered half my life, only regretting not finding a worthy master. If you don't mind, I'd be honored to serve you." John's words amused me. "Got time tonight? I'll treat you to dinner." John replied immediately, "I have time. All plans are secondary to Mr. Sincere." I met John at a Western restaurant. Chatting with him was enjoyable. He was straightforward. Even when he tried to be subtle, it was easy to see through. Being with him was relaxing. But life is a play, full of coincidences and surprises. For instance, Ethan was working part-time at this restaurant. When he saw me, he instinctively tried to hide. But the next second, he suddenly stood firm. John immediately started with his sarcastic tone. "Oh, what inspirational role are you playing now?" Ethan looked aggrieved. "You should ask Mr. Sincere." I looked puzzled. "What did I do?" I waved him over. "Come on, tell me, what did I do to you?" Ethan, eyes filled with anger and grievance, said, "Mr. Sincere, if there's a misunderstanding between Miss Victoria and me, I can explain. But taking it out on my parents, isn't that too much? Ethan, if you have something to say it quickly. Don't play word games with me. You're not qualified to question me." Just then, Victoria rushed in, wearing a light gray suit I had bought her. I had thought of everything but forgot to take the things I had bought for her. I chuckled. Spoke too soon. It seems you are qualified. Look, your backer is here. Ethan turned around, looking at Victoria with joy. But she didn't even glance at him. Her eyes were fixed on me, not leaving for a second. I looked at her. She looked haggard, thinner, with a hint of desolation in her eyes. I said, "Here to back up your little lover. Why do something so improper? Just divorce me." "What, looking for excitement?" Victoria seemed not to hear me. She took 2 steps forward, staring at me. "Why didn't you come home? Why didn't you see me?" I looked at Ethan and said, "I know you've been looking for me these past few days. I'll give you one last chance. Speak up." Ethan looked at Victoria, and seeing she wouldn't give him any answers, he turned to me, humiliated. "Mr. Sincere, why did you fire my parents? They've worked diligently for the Sincere Company for so many years. How can you fire them on a whim? What did they do wrong? What a coincidence." Ethan's parents worked at my company. This really was a setup for the villainous original spouse. "Ethan, have you watched too many romantic dramas? Do you know how many people work at my company? Thousands. Who are your parents that I should personally fire them? Even if I did, so what? Do you think I run this big company, make all this money for charity? No, for my satisfaction. As the highest decision maker, don't I have the right to fire a few unethical people?" Ethan was indignant. "What makes you say my parents are unethical?" "Because they raised someone as unethical as you." Ethan's face turned red. Chapter 8. "Mr. Sincere, you're bullying people. Just because you're rich and powerful, you think you can treat people like this? What did I do? How can you say that about me? I was just grateful to Miss Victoria for taking me to the hospital. I bought her breakfast and made her lunch to show my gratitude. What did I do wrong?" Watching Ethan's exaggerated performance made me want to vomit. I understand everything." I glanced at John, who was eagerly eating up the drama. "John, if someone had appendicitis, would they call their boss?" John nodded repeatedly. "The world is full of wonders. Maybe his parents are dead, he's been abandoned by everyone, and his brain is so damaged he can't dial. So his first thought was to call his boss." Ethan's face turned pale. "And even if he did call his boss, she should have just called for him, not personally taken him to the hospital." This precise remark hit the mark, cutting deep. Victoria, without looking at Ethan, said, "It won't happen again." I felt disinterested. "Ethan, don't lose hope. Once Victoria and I are divorced, you can take your place. For now, just bear with it. Don't give me a reason to kill you." Victoria clenched her teeth, grabbing my hand. "We won't divorce. Not now, not ever. There's no one else, only you." "What's the point of saying this now?" I tried to pull my hand away, but she held on tightly. I didn't control my strength, and she stumbled, hitting the edge of the table. Her face turned white as she clutched her stomach, gripping my arm. The baby, Sincere, our baby. Did I want a child? The answer was yes. Before I brought out the divorce agreement, I had asked her several times, giving her many chances to be honest. I thought as long as she said it, I would give her one last chance as long as she wanted to keep our child. But she never said it. Even as we went through the divorce process, she didn't say it. I thought she had already aborted the child, but now she said she was pregnant with our baby. Victoria lay in the hospital bed, holding my hand tightly. I didn't pull away. Honestly, I was tired, physically and mentally exhausted. The doctor said, "You have signs of a threatened miscarriage, but your physical condition is good. The problem isn't serious. Stay in the hospital for a few days, get an IV to protect the pregnancy, and then rest and keep a good mood. Avoid any further collisions." I nodded. "Thank you." After the doctor left, a nurse came to give her an fourth. The infusion was slow, and neither of us spoke. After a long time, Victoria said, "I'm pregnant." "And?" My voice was hoarse, unpleasant. Victoria's hand trembled, then she hastily let go. "What did you say?" I looked down at her. And? Victoria's eyes instantly reddened. I'm pregnant. Our baby. You ask and? Even if I'm pregnant, you still want to divorce me? I felt short of breath. Our baby? Didn't you think about not having it? Where did this our baby come from? Victoria shook her head. No. I interrupted her. When did you find out you were pregnant? Why didn't you tell me? If you didn't want a divorce, if you thought being pregnant could affect our divorce, why didn't you say anything? Victoria's lips pressed into a thin line, her hand on the bed tightly clenched. I sneered. Can't answer? Let me answer for you. Because you didn't plan to keep it, so why use it as a bargaining chip? After a long silence, Victoria spoke again, her voice choked. Sincere, let's not divorce, okay? I shook my head decisively. No. Victoria's breathing grew heavier. I'll have the baby. We won't divorce. Victoria, I growled, don't use the baby as a bargaining chip. Victoria cried. I didn't handle my relationship with Ethan well. It won't happen again. Let's start over, okay? I felt a bit sad. I sighed. Others can, but not you, because you're Victoria. Victoria looked confused. Victoria, ask yourself, if this hadn't escalated to the point of divorce, if it was just a fight, what would you do? You'd think I was being unreasonable. You'd keep saying we're just friends. Do you know the worst kind of people are those who do ambiguous things under the guise of being just friends or male best friends, then blame me? Even if something happens, you'd say it was my fault. Why not cut it off at the source? A rotten piece of meat should be cut off. Victoria shook her head slowly. She looked at me pleadingly. Sincere, you can't do this. You can't leave me because of things that haven't happened. These are just your assumptions. They won't and can't happen. I rubbed my temples. Do you know what risk assessment is? Victoria stiffened. And our relationship? Our 25 years together? You're just going to throw it away so easily? We have a child. We could get better and better. Sincere, you still love me. You still love me. It seemed this love was her last hope, the confidence I had given her. I interrupted her. Victoria, do you love me? Victoria looked at me. For the first time, she answered this question directly. Sincere, I love you. I sneered. You can do such ambiguous things while loving me. Why can't I divorce you while loving you? Victoria's face turned pale. She looked at me pleadingly, her eyes like a drowning, desperate person. I turned my head away, not wanting to look at her. Victoria, I'll give you a week to think about it. And our baby? Up to you. If you want to have it, I'll support you. If not, I'll accompany you for the procedure. My words were cold and heartless, hurting both of us. Behind me, I heard a dull thud, followed by Victoria's beast-like wail. Sincere. Victoria stayed in the hospital for a week, causing a scene for a week. She refused to eat or receive proper treatment unless I was there. The nurse and doctor kept calling me in various ways. I thought, thank goodness her parents didn't know, or they'd be at my door. But I wasn't completely heartless. I went when I should, brought food when I should, but didn't say anything unnecessary. Gradually, Victoria fell silent too. Chapter 9. That day, she suddenly spoke. Sincere, I'm very scared. I feel like you're drifting further and further away from me. I didn't know what to say. After 22 years of feelings, I wasn't a robot. Facing her, I felt sadness and pain. But every moment of sadness and pain reminded me that it was all her doing. She was the one who abandoned our 22 years of feelings first. I kept going over this process again and again, feeling as though my heart was being pierced by thousands of arrows. And the baby? What's your plan? Victoria touched her belly. What if I say I want to keep it? I'll pay child support. I'll take care of it. Victoria's eyes reddened. Sincere, during pregnancy and breastfeeding, as long as I don't agree, you can't divorce me. Yes, that's right. But the child will eventually be born and will grow up. Victoria, let it go. Why force it? What if I insist? Such a Victoria made me feel sad. I gently brushed her hair aside. Then we can't part amicably. Victoria choked on her sobs. Sincere, you're so cruel. You gave me the confidence over 25 years to believe that everyone would leave me except you. But you abandoned me without hesitation, without any room for reconciliation. Sincere, you're too cruel. Her cries tugged at my heart, but only for a moment. Then let it be my fault. Victoria shook her head. No, it's all my fault. It's my fault. She looked at me with tear-filled eyes. Sincere, if we could do it all over again, would you still be with me? This question stunned me. Looking back at the past 22 years, I had accompanied her, and she had accompanied me. I would. Victoria stared blankly at me. Victoria, I'm 28 years old. You've been a part of my entire life. You've always been there for me. No matter what happened, you were the first person to show up. You've witnessed all the stages of my life. I've loved you so naturally. I can't deny the past 22 years because of a mistake now. Similarly, I can't accept the mistake now because of the past 22 years. What should we do, Victoria? Tell me, what should we do? Tears silently streamed down Victoria's face. She stared blankly at me, letting out a painful wail. For the first time, she truly realized what she had done wrong. In a hoarse voice, she said, Sincere, I agree to the divorce. With no property disputes, our divorce went smoothly. Looking at the freshly issued divorce certificate, I sighed in relief, feeling both lost and relieved. Do I hate Victoria? It doesn't seem to reach that level. But as long as she held the title of my wife, everything she did felt like a thorn in my side. Only by shedding this identity could I truly let go. Call it self-rescue, perhaps. I took Victoria back home and stopped at the door. This is where we part. Victoria looked haggard. Sincere, will you still come to see me? Probably. After all, there's still the baby. Victoria ultimately decided to keep the child. I didn't think it was a wise decision, but the baby was in her belly, and I couldn't take away her right. I turned and left, leaving Victoria standing there. Mr. Richard Sr. and Miss Grace had returned from their trip. Seeing me, Miss Grace was delighted. Son, have you lost weight? Losing weight is good. Mr. Richard Sr. came down the stairs. Where's Victoria? Why didn't she come back with you? We're divorced. I hadn't planned to hide it from them. Both Mr. Richard Sr. and Miss Grace were stunned, standing there, staring at each other. I handed them the divorce certificate. Mr. Richard Sr. glared at me. What happened? Such a big deal, and you didn't think to discuss it with us? Do you have any respect for us as your parents? Miss Grace hit him hard. Why scold him? With Victoria's stubbornness, if it wasn't absolutely necessary. She didn't finish. I lowered my eyes, a wry smile on my face. See, everyone knew I loved Victoria madly. Miss Grace suddenly came forward, wrapping her arms around me and gently stroking my hair. It's okay. You're home now. Smelling the familiar fruity scent on Miss Grace. I felt my nose sting, and tears flowed uncontrollably. Full of grievances, full of resentment, full of longing. I thought, let me be a child one more time. Let me cry one more time. Just this once. Tomorrow, I'll be the elegant, all-powerful Mr. Sincere again.